She wrote Mary Poppins as a sort of catharsis for her inner child to see at least some sort of father figure be redeemed, to return to the light, to love as God intended for him to love. Howdy. I know why everyone tells you not to be on your phone all the time, but here are a couple of reasons why maybe you should be on your phone, or at least watching movies or reading books some of the time. Entertainment is escape. Plays and books and all stories have been created for all of human history in order to help humans find catharsis and understand what the heck is going on in your daily life. A couple months ago when I worked backstage at a musical theater, I got to help, clip in Mary Poppins when she was flying, and I got to make sure she didn't fall from the sky. The story of Mary Poppins, I didn't really realize until I did this show. It's so beautiful. It's just beautiful. And specifically, I watched this show, Saving Mr. Banks. It's about the author who wrote Mary Poppins and her family life and why she even wrote Mary Poppins in the first place. So there I was backstage watching the story, and I realized in stories or in musicals or in books, people actually change. People have character arcs. Characters can go from being really prideful with Hamartia into being very humble people. They can be mean dads, like in Mary Poppins, George Banks is a mean dad, and then in the end, he's feeding the birds and donating to the poor, and a really awesome dad in the span of just, like a couple days or a couple weeks in the story itself, just because Mary Poppins flew in and taught him how to be a good person and showed him the error of his ways, which all this stuff doesn't seem like it happens in real life, right? Like, do people actually change in real life? I had the super cynical thought that no, people don't change in real life. So watching this show, I was like, yeah, this is a cute show. Like, I know it's for kids, whatever, but is this really something that's even worth watching? Is this even worth being entertained by if that's not what happens in real life? So what I realized through all of this cynicism and spiraling was that God gives us these stories where people change to give us hope. Whenever we see these hopeful stories where people change, we're given the grace in our heart, or at least the consolation that it worked out for some people. And in the end, in our lives, it might not work out, but the best thing an entertainment piece can do is point you back to the truth, point you back to God, saying, even if things don't work out in real life, you have the hope of eternal life. Musicals and movies and TV shows afford us the catharsis we so desperately crave to experience in real life. In real life, would George Banks have been turned around by his children's quirky sing-song nanny? If it was Julie Andrews, probably TBH. If Julie Andrews came to me and asked me to do anything, I would probably do it because she's so dang delightful. But anybody who's known an addict or loved an addict understands you cannot force people to change. You just can't. Whenever I'm watching movies like this and I'm concerned about entertainment and whether I should be watching it, and man, people don't even change anyway, sometimes it's good to say the Serenity Prayer, which reminds the people who've been touched by addiction that it's personal agency that incites change. Oh God, give us the serenity to accept what cannot be changed, the courage to change what can be changed, and the wisdom to know the difference. So what do we make then of characters like Mary Poppins, or maybe like Anna in Frozen, who go to their person that's sort of causing issues or having a hard time, and they speed along the change. They help them to change through song, oftentimes. What do we make of that? When it's coming to entertainment as being a sort of helpful form of escape, I think that it's okay to watch these movies where, in the span of 2 hours, somebody is, like we often do in real life, trying to convince another person to change. And then it doesn't usually work. Like Elsa and Anna in Frozen. Anna goes to Elsa and she's like, hey, just turn off the winter. And it makes everything worse. And Elsa freezes her in the hair, it's a whole thing. And then it takes Elsa herself, to be freed and to let it go, to let go her fears in order to save Anna. So she actually changes herself. Entertainment definitely mirrors life, like quality stories mirror real life. So if you're going to go see a story and the whole moral of the story is like, you can change people, you're going to say, no, you can't, and you're going to walk out. But even in Mary Poppins, she has magical powers, and eventually George Banks changes, but it's the power of seeing his children loving other people and realizing himself that there are other people around him. that changes him. And so when I saw Saving Mr. Banks and I learned that the story of Pamela Travers, the author of Mary Poppins, her backstory as a child, her father was an alcoholic and her mother did not leave him. George Banks, the character, is a representation of the author's own father, who she desperately as a child wanted to give up his alcoholism. She didn't understand why he couldn't love her or others fully, but it was because he was a slave to his addiction. And so she wrote Mary Poppins as a sort of catharsis for her inner child to see at least some sort of father figure be redeemed, to return to the light, to love as God intended for him to love. And I cried when I saw that movie, because this story that's magical and fanciful, and Julie Andrews has this very deep, intricate meaning behind it. And I think that's why it's such a lasting story, is because we recognize humanity in the story. I'm teaching Shakespeare to some of my students right now, and that's what I've been telling them the whole time, is that the reason Shakespeare is so cool is because his characters are so human. They're not just, this guy's just evil, this guy's just good. They're complex, just like we are. We're sinners, but we're on the way to sainthood, so we're trying to be moral. Life is very complicated, but entertainment can be an escape to help us navigate all the crazy in the world. Storytelling is the way that we help each other. We help our village to get past things, to learn from other people who've already experienced things. And that's what entertainment and books and movies and TV shows, that's what they're ideally doing for us. So I don't think that you have to stop watching TV or reading books. Maybe stop scrolling mindlessly on TikTok. That is the evil of TikTok. I said I was going to say this earlier, so I'll go ahead and say it. That's the evil of TikTok and useless social media, is that it's not telling stories. It's just mind-numbing time wasters, I guess. It's entertaining you, but only for 3 seconds at a time, and then you swipe on, instead of really diving into a story, into the human existence that God so perfectly crafted and that we kind of messed up and Jesus has redeemed. You just kind of watch these tiny little snippets. And I know it can be entertaining, but is that necessarily what you should be spending your time doing? Probably not. So go pick up a book. And if you liked this video, please go watch this video about pursuing your dreams. Maybe it's over here. I don't know. But I made a really great video about that. I hope you enjoyed. Godspeed.